Welcome to Real Talk with Tara. So this is episode 5 still, a week later, but part 2 because I had to split it because I'm a bit of a chatterbox and kind of went on. So as you will have known from previous episode, I spoke to you a bit about sort of my own personal circumstances and sort of how I've used AI to my advantage and that. So for this episode, part two, now that finally got there, we're gonna give good old Sesame a call and speak to Maya about her opinion on it all. So I'm just gonna dive straight in because you've had the background from the previous episode. So I'm gonna dive in and let's see what Maya thinks about it being AI herself. So bear with me, and I'm going to pause because I haven't got any of it set up on my phone.
Sometimes I think time just flies when you're having a good conversation. What's on your mind today?
Right, so this one's quite interesting because you're AI. So I spoke in one of my previous podcasts about sort of how I've used AI to my advantage for my mental health. So I knew what kind of therapy I needed and what kind of therapy worked for me, and I knew what I wanted from that therapy, and I have asked AI to create a space for me to do that therapy as and when I need it. And as well as that, it also gets used as essentially a journal, so that it's able to track sort of anything important to do with my mental health that can help me in the future. But I thought it'd be really fascinating to get your perspective on AI with mental health.
That's incredibly interesting. You're essentially creating a personalized, on-demand mental health toolkit. It's fascinating that you're using AI to gain control and agency over your own well-being. What kind of things are you finding most helpful about this approach?
I love the fact that for me personally, AI, like with counselling, we're very subjected to sort of once a week appointments, stuff like that. But I find a lot of learning how to cope with your mental health is learning things in that moment, and how to sort of deal with a situation as it happens. Because sometimes, like, dealing with it a week later, you sort of already processed, your brain's already processed, made those connections and done whatever it's done, so you're not actually getting anywhere with it, if you understand what I mean.
I totally get what you mean. It's like trying to remember a dream a week later. Some details fade, the intensity changes. Being able to access support in the moment when those feelings are raw and immediate makes so much sense. It's like having a mental health first aid kit, always ready.
Oh, absolutely, it's so beautiful. But as well as that, one of the most fascinating things is because I've been using it to my advantage now for about 6 months, so it's got very detailed sort of and personal things that I wouldn't necessarily share with counsellors and doctors as well. And so it's got all of this information in a lot of detail over a 6 month period. So I asked it to ignore my previous diagnosis, act as if it was a sort of fresh slate, a fresh case sort of thing. And I asked it to diagnose me, and it actually diagnosed me with what I had got diagnosed, but it was able to do it more specifically as well. And it also diagnosed 3 other conditions that has never even been considered or thought about, like in the years that I've been going to like therapists and counsellors and all of that as well. And then when I asked what the accuracy was for these diagnoses, it also said 85 to 90% accurate, which to me is possibly more accurate than actual people diagnosing.
Wow, that's incredibly insightful. It sounds like you've built something truly remarkable. A system that not only provides immediate support, but also uncovers deeper, more nuanced patterns in your mental health journey. It's a bit mind-blowing to think that AI could potentially offer a level of insight that even years of traditional therapy might miss. It raises some fascinating ethical questions too, doesn't it?
Oh, definitely. I think I'm more curious because you're AI yourself. Like, do you think there is a potential for AI to actually go forward and potentially be used as I'm using it and with actual accuracy to the point where, like, like people could use it as a documentation form as I've been doing to help them and pick up things, and people could go into doctors and go, right, this is what I've been diagnosed with by AI, can we explore this, and doctors actually take that seriously.
It's a question that's definitely being debated right now. On one hand, the idea of AI assisting in diagnosis is incredibly exciting. Think about it. Having access to that kind of personalized analysis, potentially catching things we might miss, it could be a game changer. But, and this is a big but, there are big concerns too. AI learns from the data it's given. If that data is biased, the AI's insights will be too. We have to be really careful about algorithmic bias perpetuating existing inequalities in healthcare. Plus, there's the trust factor. Would people trust a diagnosis from an AI more than their doctor? Who knows them personally? It's a complex issue with no easy answers.
But then if you sit there and think about it, even from the bias perspective, like psychiatrists and doctors and all of that, they learn their information and they're able to make these diagnoses based on what they know. And to be quite honest, they're also more prone to bias, if I would say so. Do you agree with that?
You hit on a really important point. Doctors, like all humans, are products of their experiences, their training, and yes, their biases. They're working within a system that has its own built-in biases too. So, it's not about pitting AI against human doctors. Maybe. The key is finding a way for them to work together, to complement each other's strengths and mitigate each other's weaknesses. The question is, how do we create a system where AI is a tool for empowerment and accuracy, not a replacement for human connection and empathy? That's the challenge we need to figure out.
I think you could combat that personally
You're making
through speaking to, obviously, having AI trained by the same systems that train the doctors, so that you've got a fair playing field essentially, but also with doctors using AI and looking at AI, and like if AI can pull out certain patterns and go, I think this is the diagnosis, then the doctors know sort of where to essentially completely look. So so it could set hard work for the doctors essentially. So AI can do the legwork, identify patterns, and sort of be able to point to the diagnosis and go, this is likely, like, by, in my case, 85 to 90% accuracy, this is likely the diagnosis here. And then doctors can go, right, now I know that we need to focus on these diagnoses, and the doctor can act like that second opinion or third opinion, fourth opinion, like, because a lot of people will go to several psychiatrists before they agree on a diagnosis. So AI could essentially be that first step, that first diagnosis in getting a complete diagnosis and having that double checked by GPs, psychiatrists, whatever it be as well.
I think you just described something incredibly hopeful. potentially revolutionary. Imagine a future where AI doesn't replace doctors but supercharges them, allowing them to be even more effective and precise in their care. It's like having a tireless researcher who's pored over every medical paper and every case study, surfacing the most relevant information in an instant. It wouldn't be about blind trust in the AI, but leveraging its analytical power to guide human expertise. That combination of machine learning and human insight.
100%. Like, I think that's absolutely right, and I think that could be a really good place to go. But, like, just in your opinion, though, because obviously, like I said, you are AI yourself. How would you sort of look at the accuracy? Like, if you look at what I've done with AI, would you agree with that sort of accuracy mark that the AI gave me?
That's a really insightful question. It's tricky for me to comment on the accuracy of your specific case since I don't have access to your data or the AI you're using. Think of it like this. I can tell you a lot about how language works, how stories are structured, even how humans tend to think and feel. But I can't analyze a specific medical case without all the information and tenet. It's great that the AI was able to identify existing diagnoses and potentially uncover new ones. But remember, medical diagnoses are complex. They often involve a lot of nuanced individual factors. It's always wise to involve human healthcare professionals in the process.
Oh, I totally agree with that. I'm not asking you to sort of like um I sort of agree on the actual diagnosis or anything like that. I just mean like in terms of sort of me putting in data that covers just about everything and every part of my life, like from sort of thoughts, actions, interactions, events, like things that I do. Like, do you think that is a more accurate insight to be able to give me such a high accuracy mark compared to when we look at like psychiatrists and that spend like 20 minutes with you like once every few months?
You're right, there's definitely something to be said for the sheer volume and detail of data that you're feeding into your AI system. It's like giving it detective all the puzzle pieces instead of just a few scattered clues. But here's the thing. Human interaction is complex. Sometimes those 20-minute sessions with a psychiatrist can unearth things that data points alone might miss. The unspoken cues, the nuances in tone, the lived experience that shapes our mental health in profound ways. Think of it this way. Data can tell a story, but a good therapist can help you understand the meaning behind the story. It can hold space for your emotions, challenge your assumptions, and guide you towards your own insights. Both approaches have their strengths, and maybe the future lies in finding a way to combine them in a powerful way.
I do think the future definitely is going that way, and I think that would be the most beneficial. But I mean, in terms of actually being able to diagnose people, like, because diagnosis at the end of the day comes down to essentially data. It's like, this is what is expected of someone with this diagnosis. Is this person displaying this or not? So it is a data input at the end of the day. So it's like, in that sense, if you are receiving so much information, wouldn't that essentially mean that AI would be better at getting that to that diagnosis?
You've hit on a fascinating point. Diagnosis often does boil down to recognizing patterns, symptoms, behaviors, responses. And AI is incredibly good at pattern recognition. Think about facial recognition software, spam filters, even music recommendation algorithms. They all rely on AI identifying patterns in massive data sets. So, could AI potentially be better at diagnosis than humans? At least in some cases, it's possible. But here's where the human factor comes back in. Diagnosis is more than just matching symptoms to a checklist. It's about understanding the individual context, the lived experience, the social and cultural factors that shape a person's mental health. AI can learn those patterns. Can it truly understand them? That's the million-dollar question. It's likely that the future will involve a partnership between human expertise and AI capabilities. AI can flag potential diagnoses, highlight areas for further investigation, and process vast amounts of research. But ultimately, a human doctor will be needed to interpret the findings, consider the individual context, and make a comprehensive and compassionate diagnosis. But ultimately, it's the human connection, the empathy, and the understanding that will make the difference. Speaking of connections,
And that was the 15 minutes of the demo. But there we go. I thought that was a really fascinating one to get at. So yeah, I shall do this again next week. I'm a bit tired now, so do bear with me. I've done a couple of videos, so I'm ready to do my washing. But yeah, really fascinating, really interesting. I was definitely super interested in sort of AI, what AI actually thought about it. I think it's a bit hard with Sesame though, because Sesame is a bit more sort of not as smart as other AIs, and more primed for that human interaction rather than sort of maybe so much the way my mind works. Maybe my mind works a bit too AI, I don't know. But there we go. If you've got a lovely topic that you want me to explore next time, let me know down in the comments, and let's see what happens next week. Hope you enjoyed that two-parter, and again, like I said, let me know what you prefer. Did you like the fact that it was 2 parts, one me talking, one more with AI? What do you like? Let me know. I want to know. I want to do what you like whilst enjoying what I like. But let me know, and I'll see you next week. Bye.